everyone. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this amazing bobble stitch blanket. So I'm going to get the stripy bobble blanket because obviously I'm going to be showing you how to change colours throughout so that you can create a blanket just like this one. Now this one has been done using Paintbox Chunky, and obviously as always you can find all of the relevant information in the description box, so make sure you check that out. And if this is your first time visiting the Blossom Crochet channel, then do make sure you subscribe now to keep up to date with all of my weekly tutorials. But the Bobble Stitch is an amazing blanket for any purpose really. Obviously great big blankets or baby blankets. It's just such a lovely, nice textured blanket that this stitch creates. Obviously you can do it all in one colour or you can do it in the stripes like I'm going to be doing with you today. So you can use absolutely any yarn that you like and just use the corresponding recommended hook size for that particular yarn. I'm just going to be using 2 shades for my sample piece just of normal Paintbox DK. So obviously as always we want to start with a slip knot on your hook. And this foundation chain needs to be worked in multiples of 4, so whatever the width of the project needs to be, as long as it is a multiple of 4. So just yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through, and that is how you chain. So if you want to complete your foundation chain now, and I will meet you back in just a moment. So obviously I'm only doing a really small sample piece, so I've got a chain here of 24, and whatever amount you have done you need to add on an additional 3 chains at the end. So 1, 2, 3 more chains. Now we're going to work back along to create our very first row. So you want to work into the 4th chain from the hook, so you don't count the loop on your hook, but you go 1, 2, 3, and this is our 4th. And we're going to be doing trebles, so that is a UK treble. In the US this is your double. So yarn over, oops, insert into that 4th chain, yarn over and pull up. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the final 2 loops. So that is your first treble. And then treble it again into the next stitch, so yarn over, insert into the next chain, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'll do it one more time. Yarn over, insert into the next chain, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're going to just work 1 UK treble into every single stitch along your foundation chain, and I will meet you at the other end. So I've completed that first row, so that is how you should be looking. Don't worry if it curls a little bit, that's absolutely normal. And so now if you want your bobbles, let me just bring back my other blanket. If you want each row of bobbles to be a different colour, like in my example piece here, then you need to change colour every 2 rows. So you will always have a row of trebles in the colour, and then the second row, which is the row of bobbles in the same colour. So we're going to stick with this green for now. And we're not going to chain, we are simply going to turn our work around. And into this very first stitch where you can see we've got our working end coming up from. So in that very first stitch there, you're going to insert your hook. Make sure you go through the whole of the stitch, make sure you've got that V across the top. Yarn over and pull up. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through both, and that is a UK double crochet into that very first stitch. Now if you're a real beginner and you're still not quite sure on where your rows will start and end, then do just pop a little stitch marker through the top of that double crochet that we have just created. So that is 1 double crochet into the top of that very first stitch. We're then going to put a double crochet into the top of the next stitch. So yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both. So we've got 2 double crochet. We're now going to create our first bobble stitch into the next stitch. So to create a bobble, you want to yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go back into that very same stitch, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over again, insert back into that same space, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, and 1 final time, so you'll do it 5 times. So yarn over, back in to the stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2. And at this point now you should have 6 loops on your hook. So you'll have done that 5 times. So you're going to yarn over now and pull through all of those loops. Now obviously it doesn't look very much like a bobble just at the minute, but when we do this next stitch it will form the bobble. So you can see the stitch that we've worked into, all those bobbles, that bobble stitch. And then into this very next stitch, make sure you don't miss it. It might sometimes get tucked slightly behind because you've done so many stitches, but just pull your work and just make sure you find that very first stitch. And you're going to go back to doing your double crochet. So insert, yarn over and pull up. Try and keep this quite tight, this one. Yarn over, pull through 2. So that now has created a lovely bobble. So we've done 1 double crochet, and in between our bobbles we're going to have 3 double crochets every time. So we've done 1, so number 2 goes in the next, and number 3 into the next. So we've done 3 double crochet, and again we're going to do a bobble. So yarn over, insert into that stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, back into the stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, and a 3rd time, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, that's 4, and 1 final time, yarn over, pull through 2, that is 5, and you should have 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all of those loops, and then again make sure you find that very next stitch, and you're going to do your 3 doubles. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So if we turn this over now, you should have 2 quite prominent bobbles. So you're going to continue that all the way along. You're going to do your bobble and then 3 double crochet, bobble, 3 double crochet, and I will meet you just as you get back towards the end of this row. But if you need to, just rewind and watch the bobble bit again if you need to. Okie dokie, so I'm nearing the end now. I've done a bobble and then I've done my 3 double crochet, and you can see I've got 3 stitches left, 1, 2, and then the top of that turning chain. So I'm going to do a bobble as normal after my 3 doubles. 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've completed the bobble, and then obviously you can see here I've got my 2 stitches left, so I'm going to do 2 double crochet, so 1 into that very next stitch and then 1 into the top of that little turning chain. So 1 into the top of there, so 1 final double. But if you're changing colours now because you want your next set of bobbles to be a different colour, then don't pull through those final 2 loops on that double. You want to grab your new colour and just get a little loop and just pull through that final 2 loops. Now we're going to make a chain 1, but that doesn't count as a stitch at all. It is simply to secure that colour change. So I'm ready now to snip off my green. Now it's worth bearing in mind that if you're only using 2 colours, then you don't have to snip off. You could just carry your yarn up the side if you're planning on putting a border on. So on my sample piece I'm using 5 colours, so obviously I couldn't carry my yarn up the side, but if you're only using 2 colours, then you could potentially, if you wanted to, carry that yarn up the side. So I've attached my new colour, and again I'm not going to chain, and remember that chain 1 we did doesn't count as a stitch at all. It is just to secure that initial colour change. So now into this very first stitch where we have attached our yarn. So this very first stitch we're going to insert your hook, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, and then through. You've got 2 vertical parts to this stitch. You're going to go behind that one, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, and that just gives a nice solid stitch rather than doing a chain 3. So if you remember, you had a bobble and then 2 stitches that we worked at the end, so you will always need to make sure that you don't miss the stitches on either side of the bobble. They can sometimes be tricky to see, but if you always remember that you have got on this particular row of the first bobbles, you will have 2 stitches, bobble, 3 stitches, bobble, 3 stitches, and so on, and then 2 stitches at the other end. And then obviously, because we aren't doing straight rows of bobbles, we are doing offset bobbles, the other row will be different. But we've done our first treble there, and then we're going to treble into the next stitch, so you might just need to move that bobble slightly to find that space. And you're just going to do a treble, UK treble. So that's 1, and then you're going to do a treble into the top of the bobble. So the top of the bobble stitch is usually quite easy to see because it's a longer stitch. So you can see my doubles here are quite short, and then the bobble stitch is a longer stitch. So yarn over, go into the top of that bobble stitch. Again, make sure you've got the V, and do your treble. And then, as I say, you need to remember that you've got 3 double crochets in between each bobble. So make sure that if you've not done 3 before you get to the next bobble, then you know you've missed one. So that's 1, and the next one, and it's always this third bobble, this third stitch that's always a bit tricky to see. So you just need to move your bobble to the side and make sure you work that stitch because it does get tucked away. So you're just going to do that all the way across. You're going to do 1 treble into the top of every single stitch and make sure that you don't miss any. So as always, if you want to continue that all the way along, and I will meet you at the other end, and we will make sure that we get those nice straight sides. So I'm getting towards the end of my row now, so I want to do a treble into the top of that final bobble. And then as at this end we had 2 stitches before we had the bobble, so that must mean we will have 2 stitches after the bobble at this end. So treble into the next stitch, and then make sure you do your final stitch into that end one. So like I say, because you know that you're supposed to have 2 stitches after that final bobble, that should help to keep you straight. So that is how you should look now. You see it's starting to take shape nicely. And we're going to move on now to our next set of bobbles. Now obviously we could have them all in a row, but I really like the effect that you get when you do them slightly offset. So they obviously go like this and they run in the diagonal. So that is what I will be showing you in this one. I will also obviously do a tutorial in the future to show you how to do them in straight lines. So this next row now, for our next row of bobbles, we want to turn. We're not going to chain, but into the top of that very first stitch, as always, where our working end is. So you want to insert your hook into that very first stitch, yarn over and pull up, and yarn over, pull through both to create your first double. Now on that very first row of bobbles we did 2 stitches and then a bobble, but this time we're going to be doing a double crochet into the first 4 stitches. So we've done 1, so we need 3 more. So into each of the next 3 stitches you will put a UK double. 3 and 4. And so now we're going to create our bobble. So again, yarn over and insert, yarn over, pull through 2, and you're going to do that 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then yarn over and pull through all of those 6 loops. And then again you're going to separate your bobbles with 3 double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then a bobble. So I'll do this final bobble and then you can continue along your row. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then yarn over and pull through them all, and again 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. So if you continue that all the way along now, but when I turn this over you should be able to see that our bobbles are offset, so they're going on the diagonal. So if you continue that all the way along now, and in theory you should get to do your final bobble, and then just like at the start of the row we will be doing 4 double crochet. So I've done my final bobble and you can see I have got 4 stitches left, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to do a double crochet into each of those 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and final one is 4. But again, if you're changing colours here, then you're going to pull that new colour through those final 2 loops. So I will do that once more and I will show you getting started on the next row, but we are now at the first stage of the repeat. So it's a simple pattern once you've got to grips with the bobbles. So you're going to be repeating the rows now. So you, with your new colour again, you will do your row of treble crochet. So you just, again, remember that on this one you've got 4 stitches to work into before your bobbles, and make sure that you don't miss any. So like I say, I will do this very first bit with you now, but after that you should be able to crack on your own. So again, I have turned and I have got 4 stitches here to work into. So I'm going to do my stitches up to my treble height. So starting in this very first one, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, and then again you've got the 2 vertical parts to the stitch, and you're going to go through the back of that one, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, treble into every stitch along. So that's 2, 3, and obviously that 4th one is tucked behind the bobble, so make sure you don't miss that one. So we've got 4 stitches, another one into the top of your bobble, and then as before each bobble is separated by 3 double crochet. So make sure you are going bobble 1, 2, 3, bobble 1, 2, 3, and that way you won't miss any stitches and your stitch count will always work. So complete that all the way along and I will meet you back at the other end. So you should have, after your final bobble, you should have those 4 stitches to work into. 2, 3, and obviously I have got 1 stitch there left to work. And so now we are going to be repeating this very first set of bobbles where we only had the 2 doubles at the beginning before we started doing the bobbles. So rewind to that point, but you're literally just going to repeat row 2, which is the green bobble, row 3, which is the cream treble row, row 4, which is the cream bobble, and row 5, which is that treble row. So you are going to repeat that over and over and over again until your project is as large as you want it to be. So one set will be 2 stitches at the beginning before a bobble, and your next one will be 4 stitches before your bobble, and that will give you this amazing diagonal and offset bobble. But I will meet you again. I'm going to just do one final row of bobbles for this little sample piece, and then I will show you how to finish off. So once your project is as big as you want it to be and you want to finish off your project, you want to stay with whatever colour you have used for your final row of bobble stitches, and you're going to finish your row and then turn. And because obviously if you were going to work a border now, you would want a bit of a gap between these final bobbles and your border. So you will want to go into your very first stitch again and just create up to your treble height as normal. So yarn over and pull up, and then go through the side of that stitch again. And then you're literally just going to work one final row of treble crochet. That is all this is going to be, but it's just being done in the same colour rather than changing colour. So you will just work one treble crochet into every stitch along, and that will just give you a nice finish to your project and give you a bit of a gap between that final row of bobbles and whatever border you choose to accompany your blanket. If you choose any, you may obviously wish just to leave it as it is. But the bobble stitch is just an amazing way of creating a fantastic amount of texture, and it's a really fun stitch as well. I absolutely love the finished look of a bobble blanket. And so once you've completed your final row of trebles in the same colour, you are ready to fasten off. So once you've completed your final stitch, you're just going to do a chain 1 and snip off and just pull that tail out, tighten up. So that is how your final rows should look. So you can see it just gives you a nice edge to work your border into without having to be too close to your bobbles, and it also mirrors the starting rows as well. So I really do hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. It is one of my favourites and I've been waiting to do this one for a little while. But do give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and remember to tag me on Instagram if you do use any of my tutorials, because I love to see and I love to share people's creations as well. But thanks as always for watching everybody, and I will see you again next week.